Hello everyone, my name is Mimi79 and today I've got round number 6 of the Nations Cup. So we're here at Special Stage Route X. This track comes up every once in a while, you know, but this is a very strategical race actually because, you know, there's only 2 corners, so there's not really much like pace involved, but there is actually a lot of luck and skill. You know, despite, like, on first glance you might think, how is there skill on basically a breadstick? Well, you have to time your overtakes pretty well if you want to move your way towards the front, and you also have to take into consideration the slipstream, because if you don't have the slipstream on this track, you will literally come last. There is no in between. If you're not in the slipstream of the leading group or the cars in front, then you'll just lose about 10 seconds a lap, because the track's about 19 miles long and you're losing about 3 miles per hour on the straight. So if you kind of add it up, it roughly adds up to about 9 seconds a lap. So yeah, you definitely want to be in that slipstream range. However, this is my qualifying lap, but because it's such a long track, we can kind of gloss over a lot of the running, because there's not much really to write home about, as it is such a long lap. There's not really too much to report of, but we're just kind of bump drafting in a queue here, because this is what you have to do to get a good qualifying time. If you don't bump draft, then you're going to easily lose 2-3 seconds a lap if you kind of swap. You really do have to maximise the bump drafts, and seeing as there are no penalties for bump drafting in this race, you need to take advantage of it as much as possible. The ancient pleb is scraping against the wall there, and one thing I noticed is the cars like to bounce on the surface. It's sort of like, how do I put this? It's like they're trying to massage the track in a way. Very weird goings on at Special Stage Route X. However, still bump drafting, and I'm in the Enzo Ferrari here. I'm not in the Toyota Supra, which in this first race most people went with. I think there was just 1 or 2 other cars that weren't the Toyota Supra, which is a shame, because I think the Supra is the worst looking car out of the main competitors really. So into the final corner then. You've got to go up high if you want to maximise your lap time. If you don't go up high, then you're going to lose quite a lot of time. But here, I'm kind of getting bumped around a little bit. It sounds a little bit familiar from something else. However, we are still well exceeding 250 miles an hour. Absolutely insane speeds, because, you know, these cars are tuned so you can easily reach these speeds. However, on the run to the line, we're going to get an almighty boost. We are going to gain about 20 miles an hour. We're going to come across the line and get P3. So we've got a really good position for the race, and this will help us massively. But onto the race, and this is one thing I noticed. The Supras were quite slow off the line. So the Ferrari F40 was very good at the start. So you can pretty much gain 2-3 places immediately. However, that car does suffer in the top end, so immediately gaining time on the German in front. But instead of trying to overtake, we're actually going to bump draft him, because we want to drop the cars behind as quickly as possible. You can see that already out the slipstream range. Just goes to show how crucial it is to have a car that's good off the line. However, the Lamborghini Diablo was probably the best choice for this race, because it had the overall highest top speed. So we're going to whip it forward here, because again, this track is just so long, there's not much really to report of. But here, this is the biggest mistake I made in this race actually, because what I did here was I lifted off to kind of tuck him back behind the Polish driver. However, this allowed the cars behind to catch up, and now the race has really opened up, and what could have been a 3-way battle for the lead is now about 18-way. As you know, it is very difficult to avoid accidents, as just sticking on the outside here, not much really we can do. And yeah, just look at that, just bouncing on the surface, and we get a bit of a hit there. Polish driver again forced into the wall. We get a bump draft from behind. What is going on? And then we're going to go to the far left, and then we've got Blue Racer on my right, and then here what I do is I accidentally just turn in on me a little bit, and because everyone is so bunched up, that's going to cause a massive collision, and we get forced into the wall, and there's about 6 cars either spinning out or scraping against the wall. Very important collision. We'll look at that at the end of the race. However, we have sadly lost the slipstream of the front runners, which means that unfortunately we are not going to be fighting for the victory in this one. But now we're again swamped by a group of about 7 cars, and we're going to drop down to 14th, maybe even 15th, as the German behind is gaining on me. And here I was quite worried for a moment that I wasn't even going to pick up the slipstream of these cars. However, thankfully we do just tuck in behind. But we're just going to whip it forward here, because again the lap is so long and most of it is just pointless running, just driving in a straight line. However, I noticed that because you have the accelerator on for pretty much the whole lap, well literally the whole lap, your index finger or your right foot suffers a lot, because you have to keep the accelerator off pretty much the entire race. So it is very, very straining on your finger or foot. However, we have got an 8-second gap to the cars behind, so there's no worries of that there, unless we get rammed off and squeeze into the wall and then we spin out and then we get pit laned, then it's not going to be so funny. However, there is massive group, and we are going to go to the right hand side. We're going to overtake the German. Who's the German? However, he does have the slipstream, and he's just going to fly back past. So we do have a decent chance for the top 10 here. However, at this stage, I'm a bit worried that we're not going to quite catch up to the leaders. Just whipping it forward to the end of the lap here and the end of the race, because again most of it is just pointless running. At this point we have definitely gained on the leading group. However, I think if we had one more lap we would have just caught them. However, because PD think that a 2-lap race in cars that could do 250 miles an hour is a fairly substantial race, even though it isn't, that's not quite possible. Here I went to the inside way too early, and that means we are going to lose substitute. And then Formula 1 fan spinning out. However, just look at this, we get swamped by so many cars. But we're going to cross the line in 10th. However, we do get it positioned because the Frenchman got a penalty, PHX Bambino. He got a 5-second penalty, presumably for squeezing the Brit into the wall. But here, we're just going to have another look at what happened. So this is my POV here, and we're just moving over to the left hand side, and if you look at Blue Racer, he kind of turns into the left, then I turn back across, and then that kind of causes a chain reaction. PX7 Ashumi kind of spinning out there. We're just going to look at that again, because it is very 50-50. You could say that I turned in on him, or you could say that he kind of turned in on me. However, Ashumi just loses control. I think it was because he got a bump from behind, I'm not too sure though. But ultimately that changed the course of the race quite dramatically. But skipping forward to the next race, and unfortunately we kind of spawn at the back of the pit lane, and instead of getting let out early like we did in the last race, unfortunately I didn't quite get the recording for the start. We are gonna kind of go pretty much last. As you can see here, we are literally at the back of the pack, which means bar some extraordinary circumstance, we are not going to get the slipstream, we're not going to get the suck zone. And you know, even even porn stars get sucked more than me in this one, because just look at this. We spawn about 3 seconds behind the ancient pleb, and I'm fairly certain he is in the suck zone of another car. However, we're going to whip it forward, because at this stage I was seriously concerned I was going to have to do a lap without slipstream. But here we are gaining actually on the group in front. Absolutely incredible stuff. And now we are going to get the slipstream for my qualifying lap, which is absolutely crucial, because now instead of starting what would have been most likely P19, as Bambino has a very weird bug where you can't really go as fast as you would like. However, thankfully, and I did thank them afterwards, thankfully we do get the slipstream for my qualifying lap, and if I didn't, I definitely would have been in a lot of trouble and the race would have been a lot more difficult. However, we are going to whip forward to start my qualifying lap. Just let those two go, because I want the suck zone for as much as possible, and we are just going to bump draft them ever so slightly, because if you want to get the best qualifying time, you need to just keep the bump drafts up, and then you will ultimately get a very good result. So yeah, you can just see bumping each other really, as if we don't do that, then it's just going to spell disaster really. However, this is pretty much the story throughout the entirety of the straight, and we are just going to whip it forward. Again, sorry for skipping forward so much, but you know, there is quite a lot of running that is kind of pointless. So we've completed the first corner without much issue, but the Polish driver, who actually put it on pole position in the last one, serving a penalty, and presumably this is going to mean that his qualifying lap is pretty much ruined. It's probably in tatters, and he's probably hanging his head in shame at the appalling penalty system. So we are going to fly past him, and we are going to continue bumping each other down the rest of the straight. However, I have got some good news. I will be playing another game. I'll be playing Assetto Corsa Competizione from next week, so I'll probably do the Manufacturer Series videos and an Assetto Corsa video, so one of each a week. However, since the FIA season is coming to a close quite soon, I will probably just do some daily race videos in the meantime. So qualifying P6 there, not too bad of a result actually, considering the fact that up until like 3/4 into the lap, I genuinely, on my outlap even, I genuinely didn't think I was going to get the slipstream. However, starting in P6, a very good position, and this means that we are going to be in the lead of the group. However, unfortunately, there are two F40s in the lead, which means that it's going to be very difficult to catch up with them, as there are Supras from 3rd to 5th. However, if I could just bump draft this group here, then I think we can maybe catch up to the group in front. However, you do lose a lot of time in the corners, I noticed, as you want to keep the speed up as much as possible. But unfortunately, the group in front, Agu and Spadders, you can see that already 1.5 seconds in front. We have moved to the front of this kind of group of 4, and hopefully we will get bump drafted by Jono F1 behind me, and it is going to be very crucial that we try and catch up to the two Ferraris in the lead. Right now it's a 1, 2 and 3 for the Ferrari boys back at the factory. I bet they're absolutely exuberant right now. They're probably crying happy tears, as we are going to bring it home in split 3. This is the first time I've ever been in a split this high. Normally I'm about split 6 or 7. So yeah, just once again continuing the bump drafting shenanigans, and here the gap is just dropping significantly. It was about 1.2 before we came to the corner, but now it's under a second, and we stuck to the inside. We do get a bump draft thankfully from, I think it's the Dutchman, in P6. However, the gap is dropping significantly. It's now under 8/10. And are we going to get in the slipstream range? Yes, we are. This is very crucial for the outcome of the race. However, I did notice the F40 did lack quite a bit in the top end, so maybe that is why they couldn't quite pull away. I did do another race after this one, however sadly the recording didn't quite save, so I can't bring you that one. Even though it was a very good race, we did work together pretty well. However, again, the recording just didn't save for some reason, so unfortunately I can't bring that race to you. However, now this group of about 10 or 11 cars and flying past the F40s because they just lack the top end. So Agu on our right hand side, you can just see he's in front, so we flick behind, and we are going to try and have to tuck into this group because pulling on the left hand side we aren't in the slipstream, and we were about 4th there for a brief moment I think, but we are going to drop down to P10. However, the crucial thing is that the group behind is not in the slipstream, which means that we will not be battling for first in a group of about 18 or 19. Skip it to the end of lap pod because this is a crucial moment. I'm just sticking it on the left hand side as that is the best way to maintain speed. Lifting off there for a moment because I didn't want to smack into the back of another car, maybe send them spinning and then getting a 1 billion second penalty. But here, this is a crucial moment in the race, so I'm sticking as close to the wall as possible, and then here he just squeezes me into the wall, and my heart skipped a beat at this point because I was genuinely very concerned that I wasn't going to be in the slipstream, and the gap is 4/10, which means that if we don't get a move on, then we are going to drop out the slipstream and we are going to presumably finish towards the back of the pack. However, thankfully Agu just kind of drags us in and they are beginning to battle here, so that is going to allow us to close up, and we're reaching 264 miles an hour. Insane speeds, probably breakneck speed really, because it's absolutely crazy how you can tune these cars. Unfortunately in the normal races you can't quite tune them to the same extent because of balance of performance, even though it's not very balanced at all, as is very evident in group number 4, as the FF cars are just so good you can't do anything about them. 270 miles an hour there, and here we are going to fly past the F40 and I'm going to get an almighty boost of about 10 miles an hour. We're going to go past the Dutch driver and we're going to tuck in behind Bazookator in 5th place. We're going to just bump draft him, but skipping to the first corner and just tucking in behind for now. Don't want to do anything stupid. We don't want a repeat of the first race where we took each other out because of stupid overtakes. However, Spadder's getting pushed around a little bit there by Bazookator and sticking on the left, just in the slipstream of Spadder's still, and we are going to tuck in behind. However, just scraping the wall there, but we do get a bump as the Italian tried to pull over to the right hand side to overtake me. However, VBTA1, I don't know how you pronounce it quite, to be honest, because I don't speak Dutch, although I would like to. So, bit of a weird bug there, just like kind of like an invisible barrier almost. So I lost about 10 miles an hour there, unfortunately. But thankfully, Bazookator is going to bump us along, and we are going to pull over to the right hand side to try and overtake TKM Spadders. However, it isn't going to quite work. We are getting bumped by Bazookator though, so maybe it will work, and maybe we can form a mini train. However, he does pull back along to the left hand side. We are going to have to recede those positions. So dropping down into P7 now, but there is still the final corner to negotiate, which means pretty much anything is possible. We could either finish 10th or 1st. It's very, very close. Or we could finish last. We could spin out the final corner. We could do 4 spins. However, you could just see there, Aggie is so far behind. The F40 really struggling on top end. Very good at the start, but apart from that, it's not the greatest, as top end just can't quite match the other cars. So around the final corner, a lot of bumping going on, and Bashi Case getting a little bit out of shape there, but we are going to get a very good run. However, we've got Beachy on that inside, but we are just going to kind of stick to the left hand side. The Frenchman's still stuck there, poor lad. However, we are on the run to the line. We are going to collect position number 7, almost P6. Only 0.004 there at the end. But if you did enjoy, like and subscribe, leave feedback. But take care everyone, and goodbye.